We dey speak, God dey hear. We dey speak, God dey hear. We dey speak, God dey hear. The entire auditorium shook with chants as people jumped and danced under the high energy lights. It was like an electric current pulsed through the air. Every movement, every breath was charged with anticipation. Pastor Baruch, known by all as Pastor Talk and Do, stood at the altar in a glowing gold-embroidered agbada. His eyes gleamed and his hands moved with precision like a minstrel conducting an orchestra of miracles. The woman, a middle-aged lady with crutches, suddenly leaped to her feet and tossed them into the air, running across the stage like her legs were newly formed. The crowd went wild. We dey speak, God dey hear. We dey speak, God dey hear. He shouted, raising his hand to the heaven. We dey speak, God dey hear. The congregation roared back. He was the one who spoke, the one who claimed to bring heaven to earth. And for the people, it was simple. If Pastor Talk and Do said it, it happened. Miracles, prosperity, health. No matter how impossible, it all flowed from his voice. It was City of Fire International Ministry, and it was the hottest church in Lagos. But behind the glamour, behind the thousands of testimonies, there was a dark truth, one that no one dared to question. Olama sat in the fifth row, her face a mask of calm. Her makeup was perfect, her dress was stylish, but inside she was breaking. At 29, Olama felt like the weight of the world was on her shoulders. She wasn't married, and in a society like hers, that was enough to make her feel like a failure. Her friends had all gotten married. They were posting pictures with their husbands and children, attending parties and celebrating milestones. Meanwhile, Olama could barely hold herself together. At age 29, she had yet to even get a proposal, and the clock was ticking. She did been in relationship with Obisike for over 3 years, but the marriage talk was always postponed. First, it was his job, then it was his family, then it was not the right time. She loved Obisike, but society's pressure to marry before 30 was suffocating her. Her mother, her aunts, even her friends all whispered behind her back. When will you marry, Olama? When will Olama get married? She's just wasting her time with that man. She's probably promiscuous. That's why no one has proposed to her, one of them said. Olama had been to countless churches, hoping for answers, seeking solace, but the promises were always the same. Your marriage is closed, just keep the faith. But she didn't want faith. She wanted a ring on her finger. She wanted to walk down the aisle like her friends. She wanted to escape the whispers, the judgments, and the cold silence of being labeled as leftover. Olama had a successful career as a marketing executive at a leading communication firm. She had worked her way up from an entry-level position, and now, at 29, she was one of the youngest senior managers in the company. She was proud of her accomplishments in her career, but the praise for her professional success didn't stop the clock from ticking in her personal life. At work, her colleagues admired her, and many of them had become friends. But she couldn't ignore the occasional whispers, the "when are you going to settle down?" that came from her female colleagues. Or do you know, Olama, men might be intimidated by your success. Maybe you should tone it down a bit. Tone it down, she thought. Maybe they should just mind their business. But no matter how hard she worked to prove herself, the question of marriage loomed larger than any career achievement. It was in this desperate search for change that she found Pastor Talk and Do's church. It all started when her friend Chinonso, who had been her confidant for years, brought up the topic. Olama, I know you are struggling, but jumping from one church to another won't solve your problem. You can't keep putting your faith in these so-called miracle pastors. Chinonso has always been more level-headed. She has been the more level-headed one, urging Olama to focus on self-love and patience. But Olama was tired of hearing, wait and keep praying. She had spent years waiting and praying, and the clock was ticking. 30 was just around the corner. One evening, Chinonso sent Olama a message warning her about the latest church her colleague had joined. I am hearing some strange things about this pastor. Be careful, okay? Don't get caught up in the hype. But Olama, feeling the pressure more than ever, chose to ignore the warning. The next Sunday, she found herself in the crowd at Pastor Talk and Do's church. The building was extravagant, a gleaming white structure that promised divine miracles and blessings. The moment she entered, the atmosphere was electric. People were dancing, clapping, shouting, and praising. The energy was intoxicating, and she felt a rush of hope fill her heart. The pastor, Talk and Do, was a charismatic man, exuding power and confidence. He had a commanding presence, and as he preached, his words were full of promises. Promises of healing, prosperity, and breakthroughs. Olama found herself drawn to every word. The pastor spoke about how God was about to open doors for those who had been delayed in life. When Pastor Talk and Do looked directly at her and shouted, "You with the spirit of delay in marriage, come forward," Olama felt a jolt. It was as if he could see into her soul. Her heart raced as she slowly made her way forward, feeling all eyes on her. As soon as the pastor Talk and Do touched her forehead, she collapsed. The music swelled. People screamed. She lay on the floor, her body trembling. It wasn't just the physical shock. It was the overwhelming realization that she had allowed herself to be swept into this moment. She had been desperate, searching for something to fix her life, to fix her broken heart. The pastor's word filled her ears, but it was the feeling of release, of letting go of the pressure that consumed her. "It is done! It is done!" Pastor Talk and Do shouted, raising his hands. "You will get married before the year is over. The spirit of delay has been broken." But even as the crowd cheered, a tiny voice at the back of Olama's mind whispered a warning. Chinonso's word echoed in her ears. Don't get caught up in the hype. Later, as the service ended, the church secretary approached Olama with a smile. "Pastor say you must sow a seed of faith, 250,000 naira, so that your marriage will be accelerated." Olama's heart skipped a beat. She didn't even question it. She was desperate, willing to do anything to escape the feeling of being left behind. She emptied her savings, convinced that a seed of faith would bring the miracle she so desperately needed. That night, she called Chinonso. "Chinonso, I went to the church. Pastor Talk and Do prayed for me. He said my marriage will come soon, but there is a catch. They asked me to sow 250,000 naira to seal the prophecy." Chinonso was silent for a long moment. "Olama," she finally said, her voice filled with concern, "I told you to be careful. Don't let them manipulate you." But Olama was too far gone. She had put her trust in Pastor Talk and Do, in the miracles, in the promises, and in that moment she believed that this was her only way out. Olama went online to their Instagram page and came across a viral video. A woman was rolling on the floor, screaming out the names of men that had used and dumped her. The caption read, "Pastor Talk and Do strikes again. Spirit of rejection arrested. Marriage loaded." Her heart jumped. Yes, I am on the right path. My own miracle is coming. She clicked on the profile. At Pastor Talk and Do Ministry, Lagos-based deliverance every Sunday, location Ojota. The testimonials were endless. "I met my husband 1 month after attending," one of the testimonies stated. "No womb, but I am now pregnant," another testimony stated. "From 10 years single to married in 3 weeks," another testimony stated again. Olama stared at the screen. That voice inside her whispered, "This is it." She sent a DM to the ministry's Instagram page and they responded in 5 minutes. Come with faith, we they speak, God they hear. She responded, I just left the church and I was prayed for and I was told to sow a seed and I am expecting my miracle. They responded, yes, your miracle is coming. She smiled and slept off. To the crowd, he was Pastor Talk and Do, the miracle man, the firebrand. But few knew that before the suit and the crowd, his real name was Chukwu Nonso Nkemjika. He didn't grow up in a church, no prophetic lineage, no Bible school. He grew up in Nsukka, dirt poor and street smart. At 24, when life had plunged him into depression, he met a man known as Prophet Kassas, a spiritual man who told him, my friend, you get mouth oh, you go far, but you need power or you need real power. What followed wasn't prayer, it was rituals. 3 nights in a shrine, 7 days silence, a vow never to reveal the source. The power came, yes, so did the following, so did the fame, but so did the depth, the spiritual consequences, and he knew that one day the spirit would come to collect. But for now, the show continued. We they speak, God they hear was more than a slogan. It was a max. Days passed and Olama couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation that had settled in her chest. The prophecy Pastor Talk and Do had spoken over her life haunted her thoughts, whispering promises of a soon-to-come marriage. Her heart held a flicker of hope, but there was also a nagging discomfort, a sense that something wasn't right. The 250,000 naira seed was a significant amount from her savings, but Olama had convinced herself that it was an investment in her future. If I want a breakthrough, she thought, I need to show my faith. I need to sacrifice. Every time she thought about the money, her mind battled with itself. Was it truly faith or was it manipulation? Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of a spiral. It was a message from her best friend, Chinonso. Chinonso said, Olama, I know you are struggling, but I really hope you are thinking this through. No one should pressure you into giving money like this. I know you want this thing to work out, but don't let your desperation blind you. Olama stared at the message for a long time on her phone, the words sinking into her heart. She knew Chinonso was just looking out for her, but the desire for change, the hope that she could escape the shame of being a 30-year-old single, clouded her judgment. She had already given the money and she didn't want to admit to Chinonso that she felt foolish. Instead, Olama tested back. I did it, Chinonso. I feel at peace. I believe things are about to change for me. Her phone buzzed almost immediately. That was Chinonso. Olama, I am really worried. Don't let these fake pastors take advantage of your pain. Promise me you will think twice next time. But Olama didn't want to hear it. She deleted the conversation and sank back into the numb comfort of her decision. For the next week, life seemed to stand still. No new proposal, no phone call from Obisike, her boyfriend, about marriage, and worse, no sign that her prophecy was going to come true. It was as if the miracle had forgotten her. She went to work each day, her usual smile, barely hiding and hiding the growing frustration inside. She was still holding on to the hope that soon a breakthrough would come. Then, it happened. Olama got a call from Obisike, her boyfriend. Her heart leaped as she answered the phone. Olama, I have been thinking about us. Maybe we should have taken this next step. I wanted us to go to your parents, talk to them about marriage. But Olama's pulse quickened. Finally, she gasped in her heart. But then Obisike's voice flattered. But Olama, there's something I need to tell you first. There's been someone else. Olama's words seemed to stop spinning. Someone else? Her breath caught in her throat. Obisike went on. She's someone I met recently, and I think I have fallen for her. Olama's mind raced. Her thoughts blurred with shock and disbelief. How could this happen? How could this be happening now? After everything I have hoped for, after everything I have invested emotionally. Obisike words. Obisike, what? What are you saying? What are you saying to me right now? I can't believe this. She choked with her voice shaking. I am sorry, Olama. I never wanted to hurt you, but I think it's time we let go. The phone clicked as Obisike hung up on her. For the first time in months, Olama felt the weight of everything she had been running from. She had spent so much time looking for a miracle to fix her life that she hadn't realized she had been losing herself in the process. The following Sunday, Olama went back to Pastor Tokandu's church. She had to. She needed something. Anything to fill the emptiness Obisike had left inside her. She wore the same smile, the same mask she'd been wearing for weeks. But this time, it was harder to fake. When she arrived, the church was as vibrant as ever. The choir sang, the congregation shouted hallelujahs, and the pastor as usual delivered his message with fiery conviction. But none of it felt real to Olama anymore. She sat in her usual spot, her mind miles away. It wasn't just the breakup with Obisike. It was the crushing weight of realizing she had been chasing an illusion. She had placed all her hopes on a man who had walked away, and on a pastor who promised miracles in exchange for money. As Pastor Tokandu began to call for people to come forward for healing, Olama couldn't move. She couldn't bring herself to participate anymore. Had this all been a lie? She asked herself. That was when Chinonso's voice echoed in her head once more. Don't let them manipulate you, Olama. Don't let your pain become their profit. Her heart ached. Chinonso had always told her the truth, but she had been too blinded by hope to see it. Now it was late. After the service, she approached the pastor and narrated how she was dubbed, even after the prophecy, the prayer, the money, the seed she sowed. Then Pastor Tokandu told her, "My daughter, you need more prayers because the evil ones want to steal your man from you. You need to sow a higher amount this time to block the power of evil once covering your fiancé's eyes. Sow a mind-blowing seed of 500,000 naira. Olama was convinced immediately. Immediately, she transferred 500,000 naira from her savings, making it a total of 750,000 naira she had given to the church. The pastor prayed for her and told her that it's done. Weeks passed, but nothing still happened. It was a rainy Sunday morning. The church auditorium was packed as always. People had come from all over Lagos, some from Ibadan, even as far as Port Harcourt. The choir was deep in worship. The atmosphere was intense. Pastor Tokandu just arrived, escorted by 4 bulky protocol men. Cameras followed him closely as he mounted the altar in his usual flamboyant style. "Praise the Lord, church! Are you ready?" "Yes, Daddy," they roared. "We they speak. God they hear," the people thundered. But just as he was about to begin his prophetic fire session, as usual, a loud voice cut through the crowd. "You are a liar, Pastor Tokandu, you are a fraud." The room went dead silent. All heads turned to see a woman in her mid-30s walking boldly down the aisle. She looked unkempt, but her eyes were sharp, burning with fury. "Tell them how you collected money for fake prophecies," she shouted. "Tell them how you slept with my sister in exchange for fake healing." Gasps filled the church. Ushers ran towards her, but she stood firm, raising her phone. "See the videos. I have the chat. You threatened to ruin her life if she ever talked." The congregation erupted into confusion. People stood up, some screamed, others murmured and pulled out their phones to start recording. Pastor Talk and Do stood frozen for a moment. Then he forced a smile. The devil is a liar. This is a demonic distraction sent to attack your man of God, church. Man of God, the woman laughed bitterly. Ha 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 ha. You used charm on my sister. You promised her marriage. She's in Yaba left now, mentally gone. Her name is Ijoma. Ask him if he knows her. Congregations of Pastor Talk and Do, ask him if he knows Ijoma. The name hit Pastor Talk and Do like thunder. His eye twitched. The ushers dragged the woman away, but not before the whole church eyes had seen the fire in her eyes. That night, her video hit Instagram and TikTok. Within hours, it had 48,000 views. By the next morning, blogs had picked it up. Famous Lagos pastor accused of sleeping with member and using diabolic powers. We they speak, juju they hear, social media reacts as Pastor Talk and Do trends. People began to question everything. Olama sat on her bed, phone in her hand. Her heart pounded as she watched the video again. The woman's voice echoed in her head. He used charm on my sister. She's in Yaba left now, mentally gone. She paused the clip on the woman's face. Ijoma, that name talked something inside her. Yes, she snapped. Ijoma was once in their WhatsApp group, always the loudest during testimonies, the first to call the pastor daddy in bold caps, and then she disappeared. No one heard about her. Olama's heart trembled as she dropped the phone. Is this really the same man I have been running to for prayers? Could everything have been a lie? Just then, the front door opened. Chinonso stepped in with urgency, holding her phone and shaking her head. Olama, I know you have seen it, she said. Olama couldn't speak. She simply nodded. Chinonso came closer and sat beside her. I warned you about jumping from one miracle center to another. You didn't listen. But Chinonso, I just wanted to find peace. I wanted to be settled. You know how people talk about women who are 30 and unmarried. Her voice cracked. They treat us like failures, like we wasted our lives. Chinonso held her hand. You are not a failure, Olama. You are just human, and humans want love. They want family. They want to belong. But they are real pastors and they are predators wearing collars. She added, I have seen this pattern before. Isolation, control, manipulation, and now this. Olama's phone buzzed. She looked down and saw a new message from an unsaved number, but she knew that tone all too well. Good evening, daughter. I saw you in a vision. There's a dark veil around you. You must come for one-on-one prophetic section this Friday night. Come alone. Tell no one. From Pastor Talk and Do. Olama's blood ran cold. He just messaged me. She nodded. He knows you have seen the video, Chinonso said, and instead of explaining, he wants you to come alone at night. My sister, can't you see what is going on? The walls of the divine church Olama had trusted were beginning to crumble before her eyes, and suddenly she saw the signs she had ignored. The secrecy, the emotional hooks, the fear tactics, and the request for money. She put her phone on airplane mode and held her breath. Something had shifted, and there was no going back. The following days started with whispers, a few anonymous posts online, then a blog article. But it was when the TV interview aired that the dam broke. Olama was sitting in her living room with Chinonso when it happened. That's him! That's Pastor Talk and Do, Chinonso shouted, adjusting the volume. The program was Inside Truth, a national investigative show. A calm but stern journalist was seated across from a woman whose face was partially blurred. Her voice trembled. He told me to bathe with special water 3 nights in a row. Then he said the final stage requires intimacy so that my womb will be open in the spirit. The journalist asked, and did you do it? Tears fell down the woman's cheek. I did. I was desperate. I thought I was cursed. Olama's throat dried. It was too real. The next segment cut to another woman, Nkechi, this time fully on blood. My sister is still in a psychiatric ward. She believed she was married to Pastor Tokandu in the spirit. She called him her husband and tried to attack our real father. He was feeding her black soap and oil as communion. The journalist leaned in. Do you believe it was diabolic? Immediately, she said, yes, I do. The show didn't end there. It featured former church workers, his protocol head, an ex-associate pastor, and even a male usher, sharing what they did see. How the pastor traveled secretly to a riverine village in Edo State every 6 months, how he buried a live goat under the altar before the church inauguration, how all female choirs were asked to submit pictures and spiritual CVs. And then came the final blow. The journalist unveiled a hidden camera recording. It showed Pastor Tokandu in a hotel, shirt off, wine glass in his hand, speaking in tongues that suddenly morphed into mocking laughter. We they speak, God they hear, abi. Even Lucifer they hear. Oh. The video went viral. Within 24 hours, his Instagram, Facebook, and church page were flooded with curses, shock, and betrayal from followers. I sold my house rent for this man. God, is this the person I call daddy? He laid hands on my child. The internet was flooded. The next Sunday, the church gates were locked. Police vans were parked outside. Protesters stood with placards. Wolves in sheep clothing, your judgment is near. Inside the once proud pulpit of We They Speak, God They Hear ministry was silent. The banner bearing his face had been ripped down. Olama scrolled through her feeds, unable to sleep. A trending tweet caught her eyes. Pastor Tokandu arrested. Investigation ongoing. Church members in shock. Private bank accounts frozen. She didn't feel joy. She didn't feel revenge. She felt grief. Chinonso sat beside her and said quietly, the truth always finds its way, my sister and my dear friend, no matter how long it hides. It was a rainy Thursday. Olama stood at her window, watching the drops race down the glass, each one a whisper of everything she had lost. The silence in her apartment wasn't new, but this one felt different. It was the silence of awakening. Her Bible lay on the table, closed, not because she stopped believing, but because she was learning how to believe differently, without manipulation, without fear, without paying for fake oil. She picked up her journal, flipping through pages she had filled during her time at We They Speak, God They Hear ministry. Daddy said I will marry a man of wealth before June. Daddy prophesied that my husband is already in Lagos. Daddy said my delay is spiritual and I must sow a seed of 250,000 to 500,000 for 7 nights. Olama sighed, pressing the journal to her chest. How did I fall for this? How did I give my peace, my money, my dignity to a man? She remembered the fast that nearly made her faint at work, the vigil night she left crying, thinking it was the Holy Spirit, the job interviews she rejected because Daddy said they were beneath her prophetic destiny. She whispered aloud, voice shaking, God, I was a girl trying to get married. I wanted what they said I needed. I wanted to be loved. And the world made me believe I was behind, that I was running out of time, that if I didn't get married before 30, I was already a failure. But I am not. I am not a failure. There were no angels, no thunderclaps, no dramatic move of heaven, just a quiet peace, a soft knowing that healing begins when the truth is accepted. Later that evening, she made a simple video. No filter, no makeup, just her voice, raw and steady. My name is Olama. I am 29 years old. I have never been married, but I have survived heartbreak, pressure, and religious manipulation. I want to tell every woman watching this, you are not cursed. You are not left behind. Marriage is good, but marriage is not proof of value. And a man of God who controls you is not a servant of God as well. I was desperate, but now I am free. I am learning that God's voice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in the voice of a true friend, like Chinonso, or in the stillness of your own soul. Before you run to another prophet, ask yourself, what are you really looking for? And will you still have yourself when it's over? She paused the video, saved it, and she posted the video online as part of the testimonies against Pastor Talk and Do that will be used for his upcoming court case. She switched off her phone, and for the first time in a long time, she slept without fear.